some inputs, some tips and tricks related to your PI preparation.
And when you know the answer, you may start very quickly because that's a human tendency. So modulate, pace it.
IIM's conducting stress interview. So let's talk a bit about stress interview. कि during the interview suddenly interviewer बाहर चला गया और बाहर जाके वापस कॉफी लेके आया. IIM या कैपराउंड का कुछ इंटरव्यू चल रहा था, ये कैंडिडेट ने शेयर किया था. एक इंटरव्यूअर बिल्कुल सामने लंच बॉक्स खोल के बैठ गया.
Always follow the STAR method.
And is Twitter killing blogging?
Sir, does journaling and watching movies count as a hobby?
Please, sir, I don't intend to make it my ikigai.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all? Right. So, guys, you all are now gearing up for your personal interview and WAT process, right? So, in this particular video, we'll give you some inputs, some tips and tricks related to your PI preparation. And I'm sure you will also have plenty of questions. So, after we have given you inputs, then we'll start with Q&A. So, it's going to be a short session, right? So, let's begin with the introduction part of that. This is the area where most of the students get fumbled. And that's very important area because that's the first impression that you're going to leave on the interviewer. तो अब इंटरव्यू में पहला सवाल आता है कि इंटरव्यू का स्ट्रक्चर क्या, मतलब जो इंट्रोडक्शन है उसका स्ट्रक्चर आपका क्या होना चाहिए. इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट, उसका लेंथ क्या होना चाहिए, क्या पॉइंट्स इंक्लूड करने चाहिए, क्या नहीं करने. तो सबसे पहले आपका इंट्रोडक्शन के लेंथ की बात करते हैं कि नॉर्मली आपका जैसे ही आप जाते हो तो आपका पहला सवाल होता है कि इंट्रोड्यूस योर सेल्फ या व्हाई डोंट यू टेल मी अबाउट योर सेल्फ एंड सो फोर्थ. 90% इंटरव्यू आपके ऐसे शुरू होते हैं. 10% में वो सीधा कोई पॉइंट लेके आपको पूछ सकते हैं, अच्छा आप यहाँ से आए हो, थोड़ा उसके बारे में बताओ. तो ऐसा भी शुरू हो सकता है. सो प्लीज़ डू नॉट गो हेड विद प्रेजुडाइज माइंड कि पहला मेरा क्वेश्चन यही होगा. पर जैसा हमने कहा कि 90% केस में आपका पहला क्वेश्चन टेल मी समथिंग अबाउट योर सेल्फ होगा. तो उसका जो लेंथ है यूजुअली मैं सजेस्ट करता हूँ अराउंड 50 to 60 seconds, मे बी 70 seconds. सो दिस आंसर शुड नीदर बी टू लॉन्ग, मतलब वो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि आप 2-3 मिनट तक बोल रहे हो, और वो एकदम छोटा भी नहीं होना चाहिए कि 30-40 सेकंड में वाइंड अप हो गया. 60 to 80 seconds वुड बी आइडियल, राइट. तो ये आपको थोड़ा सा रिहर्स करना होगा. आप चाहो तो अपने इंटरव्यू जो इंट्रोडक्शन क्वेश्चन है उसके आंसर को ड्राफ्ट करो. मैं पर्सनली रिकमेंड करूंगा कि आप सबको अपने इंट्रोडक्शन के आंसर को लिखना चाहिए. फिर आपको देखना चाहिए कि इसके अंदर क्या सारे पॉइंट्स कवर हो रहे हैं. आर यू गिविंग देम सम टॉकिंग पॉइंट्स. अगर वो बहुत प्लेन वेनिला टाइप लग रहा है उसको और मॉडिफाई करो. फिर आप हम लोगों से इवेल्युएट भी करवा सकते हो कि सर ये हमने ऐसे किया है तो ये बराबर है नहीं है, बट गेट इट स्क्रीन. ओके, तो ये एक चीज़ हो गई. अब इंट्रोडक्शन के अंदर नॉर्मली यहाँ पे अलग अलग लोग अलग अलग चीज़ कहते हैं. जैसे कोई कहेगा कि एकदम फैंसी इंटरव्यू इंट्रोडक्शन होना चाहिए आपका, कोई कहेगा नॉर्मल वे में जाओ, राइट. तो ये आपको डिसाइड करना है. सो जैसे काफ़ी लोग ऐसा कहते हैं कि जो चीज़ें आपने रेज्यूमे में लिखी है वो आपको इंक्लूड नहीं करनी है. कोई ऐसा कहेगा कि नहीं यार, यू कैन स्टार्ट विथ नॉर्मल इंट्रोडक्शन. सो मैं पर्सनली ये रिकमेंड करूँगा कि इंट्रोडक्शन शुड गो नॉर्मली. जैसे आप अपना नाम बताते हो, कहाँ से और ग्रेजुएशन कहाँ से किया वो बताते हो. डू नॉट गेट इन टू ट्रिवियल थिंग्स लाइक स्कूलिंग कहाँ से किया, 10th यहाँ से किया, फिर ट्रांसफ़र हो गया. नो वन इज़ इंटरेस्टेड इन स्मॉल थिंग्स. आपको उनको थोड़ा सा एक आइडिया दे देना है कि आपका बैकग्राउंड क्या है. इफ़ यू हैव अमेजिंग एकेडमिक्स, अमेजिंग अचीवमेंट्स ड्यूरिंग स्कूल, यू कैन टॉक अबाउट दैट कि थ्रू आउट द स्कूल आई हैव बीन द क्लास टॉपर, आई ऑल्सो स्टूड फर्स्ट इन माई 12th स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड एग्जाम्स. अगर आपको कुछ ऐसा लग रहा है आप ये चीज़ें बता सकते हो. एंड देन यू कैन टॉक अबाउट दी अदर पार्ट्स. तो सर आप उनको आगे का बता दो, उसमें क्या ऐड कर सकते हैं.
So इतना याद रखिएगा, आपके पर्सनल इंटरव्यू विल ऑलवेज बी बेस्ड ऑन योर CV एंड योर रेज्यूमे. सो लेट नो वर्ड देयर गो अनप्रिपेयर्ड या यू अनअवेयर. सो आप कौन से होम स्टेट से बिलोंग करते हो, आपका स्कूल कोई पर्टिकुलर बोर्ड का है या कोई जैसे कि कोई ब्रांड का है, ठीक है, कॉन्वेंट है, और समथिंग लाइक योर हॉबीज. You are expected to go in depth pertaining to anything in your resume. So suppose you're a fresher. So you can be asked questions on subjects. You have work ex. You can be asked questions on competitors. You can be asked questions on the sector. ठीक है? And of course, adding to what Ronak has said, आपके introduction में से this will then guide or lead the rest of your interview. जो आपने बोला, ठीक है, so you can also choose to focus on certain aspects and not highlight certain aspects because the next question will be, okay, let's talk about this. ठीक है, in case your interview starts with tell me something about yourself, it makes a lot of sense for you to go prepared with certain standard questions such as, obviously, tell me something about yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, why MBA, why this institute, what makes you special, what sets you apart, what are your goals, long term, short term. ठीक है, एंड ऑल्सो इन टर्म्स ऑफ यू डिसाइडिंग टू डू अ जॉब, यू वांटिंग टू बी एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, व्हाट इज द करंट सिनारियो इन द कंट्री. सो बोथ का नॉलेज इन टर्म्स ऑफ योर सेल्फ, इंट्रोस्पेक्शन, इनवर्ड एंड आउटवर्ड. आउटवर्ड बोले तो करंट अफेयर्स. सो यू हैव टू नो व्हाट इज ट्रेंडिंग currently And by that, obviously, we don't mean social media trends. We mean the business world and we mean the world around you overall. Environmental analysis bolte hain usko. So both national and international. So it is imperative that 1 month leading to your interview, you read all possible newspapers and publications to know कि what is happening and uska kya impact hai. Of course, legacy events such as say the budget, because that is round the corner. That this is budget season, as we know. ठीक है? Any important sporting event, and India being a part of certain kind of summits that is going to happen, bound to इस पे questions आने वाले हैं. Please remember, if you don't know an answer, it's completely okay to say, I'm not sure of this, or I would like to take a moment to think. Gather your thoughts. ठीक है? But then still salvage the situation by giving something alternative to that. Sir, I don't know about this, but I do know about this. That's okay. You've not lost the battle. You may have not answered the question, but you've still shown, yeah, I'm smart. I'm not, because it's okay. You're not supposed to know everything. But confidence, calmness, because that is what your presence of mind is what actually matters. Yeah, Shabana ma'am?
I'll guide you a little bit about your goals and strengths and weaknesses. Now, please try to understand when you talk, if they ask you about your goals, always divide your goals into two parts, short term and long term. It's always good to sound organized, okay? Because if you don't divide it into two parts, you will end up getting confused, muddled, and even the listener will lose interest. So divide it into immediate goals and long-term goals, or short-term goals and long-term goals, and always connect your short-term goals to your 2 years at the institution where you are seeking admission. In the short term, yeah, 2 years from now, yeah, in the next 2 years, I want to see myself participating in this, learning from the best faculty or whatever you're going to do in those 2 years. That depends on the homework that you have done about the institution. You get it? So do not ever go for an interview without doing the homework for the institution where you are aspiring to study. उसका motto जो होता है, उसका faculty कैसा पढ़ाता है, कहाँ क्या है, history क्या है, placements क्या हुए हैं, do everything. That will be your short term, and connect your long term to later, like 5 years, after 5 years, or like, when you pass out, तो ठीक है, I want to see myself doing this, या in the FMCG, in the durable goods, or whatever, ठीक है, उसमें आपको connect करना है. Then let's talk about your strengths and weaknesses. There's a very, very important point here. Weaknesses, do not ever talk about your weaknesses and tell me about yourself. दोनों ने यहाँ पे, they have spoken about tell me about yourself, that was good. And don't ever mention कि हाँ, my weakness is this. No, they will ask you your weakness. यहाँ पे एक ज्ञान point क्या है? Why do they ask you for your weakness? They ask you for your weakness not to know आप क्या आप में कमी है. They want to see if you are aware as a person of what your weakness is and what are you doing to get rid of it. Are you introspective or not? क्योंकि एक दो बार ऐसा हुआ है, from the transcripts that I have read, people have said, sir, I don't think I have any weakness. I would send that person out. हमको बच्चे चाहिए, हमको इंस्टीट्यूट में लोग चाहिए, भगवान नहीं चाहिए. Right? So we have to realize that we are fallible. All of us have weaknesses. So be very particular about that. Strengths mein, always speak passionately about your strengths. Do not come up with 10, 15. Take any 2 or 3. You can even start tell me about yourself with your strengths. Okay?
Yes. Good points mentioned. And now we'll also talk about what to mention in hobbies, how hobbies are different from areas of interest. But before that, I just want to mention one more thing about your introduction part, because introduction, as I said, it's very important, right? So in introduction, I mean, you can give them some food for thought. You can give them some talking points so that your interview can go in that direction. Now, you really need to understand this part, because if you don't give them sufficient points to talk about, or some different points to talk about, they'll start asking you random question. And you may not know about everything in the world, right? So it's always better to give direction to your own interview, right? For example, you can mention, suppose you have worked with some company, so you can mention that during my tenure with this company, I helped them achieve the growth of 17%, which was far more than the previous 5 years. And do not mention anything further. Let them be curious to ask the next question. How did you achieve this growth of 17%? How did you measure this? Right? So a few more questions will come. So what you can do is, during introduction itself, you can mention a point which can make them curious, but you will not reveal the complete information. Let them ask them as a follow-up question. right? So you're saving yourself from those random questions. So I hope that works. Now coming to the point that I mentioned afterwards, that is hobbies, right? Now many students fail to understand what are their hobbies, right? There is something called areas of interest. For example, I like to follow politics. That doesn't mean politics is my hobby. That's my areas of interest. Okay, I like to keep a track of technology. ठीक है मतलब what are the updates in technology and all, right? But hobby is something that you do on regular basis. So regularity is very important, and it can be anything, right? It can be reading books, traveling, trekking, cooking, or playing some sports, musical instrument, anything. But you should be doing that regularly. Second, whatever you mention as your hobby, first of all, limit your hobbies. It should not be something like you have mentioned, sir, I like to read, I like to travel, I like to track, I like to play cricket, I like to play guitar. It can't be like this. So always limit your hobbies. It should be ideally 2 hobbies. I personally recommend 2 hobbies, but deep dive in that. Matlab, you need to have thorough details. For example, you said that I like to play badminton. That's my hobby. I play it regularly. So you should know who are the top 3 players in the world as per the current badminton ranking. You should know that. So whatever you mention as your hobbies, have sufficient knowledge of that, right? Sir, any other points?
And I want to also kind of say body language. So you are supposed to sit up front, obviously. ठीक है? Sit comfortably. ठीक है? Lean forward while answering. You can choose to go back, which is completely okay because the back pains. It's a good 15-20 minute process. It is okay. Lean forward while answering. ठीक है? Maintain eye contact. Even if you are nervous, don't show it. Don't forget to smile. The most awkward thing comes when somebody actually tells you, why are you so serious? And then this happens with all of us. You suddenly break into a very weird smile. Don't do that. इससे ज़्यादा अच्छा है. Let's not forget it. Smile sometimes. Maintain eye contact. Look at everyone. ठीक है, while answering also. At the same time, lean forward. Leaning forward really kind of, shows that you're genuinely interested. Little bit of gestures will obviously work. Varna you just don't know what to do with your hands, so it's kind of comfortable. ठीक है? If there is a need to have a sip of water, please do. So you don't have to, like kind of be all stuck up and, shoulders ऐसे एकदम hunched up, very, very firm. But at the same time, appear very easy. Soft face. So keep that in mind. That is of utmost importance. So please practice. Also, when you're very excited and when you know the answer, you may start very quickly because that's a human tendency. So modulate, pace it, every word, enunciate. So in case you face problems, you should know. So start reading aloud a newspaper in front of a mirror so that every word comes out. The saddest part is if you give a well-constructed answer and the person makes you repeat, sorry, what? That's not a good sign. That means you went too fast or you were not clear enough and the person just it did not register. So remember to kind of pace it out, appear calm, look kind, because they are testing your managerial skill sets. They are testing your ability to handle pressure, uncertain situations, and random things thrown at you. So keep that composure, which is at all times very important.
Yeah, we also mentioned about the IIMs conducting stress interview. So let's talk a bit about stress interview because few of you are going to face that. Now, what is a stress interview and how can you make out that this is a stress interview? Because sometimes if you don't know about the stress interview, you may perceive that you are not doing well, but it might be opposite. You are doing well, but they are trying to put you under stress, right? So uncomfortable. They try to put you under uncomfortable situation. So some of the ways of doing it, and then ma'am and sir will share their observation. One of the ways that I've seen in one of the symbiosis interview, I'll share later, but एक symbiosis interview में ऐसा हुआ था कि during the interview suddenly interviewer बाहर चला गया और बाहर जाके वापस कॉफी लेके आ गया. ठीक है, मतलब वो ऐसा दिखा रहा है कि मुझे आप में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. जब कोविड के टाइम पे ऑनलाइन इंटरव्यूज हो रहे थे, एक इंटरव्यू के अंदर एक कोई IIM या कैपराउंड का कुछ इंटरव्यू चल रहा था, ये कैंडिडेट ने शेयर किया था. एक इंटरव्यूअर बिल्कुल सामने लंच बॉक्स खोल के बैठ गया अपना, ठीक है, क्योंकि वो जूम पे हो रहे थे तो ऑनलाइन इंटरव्यू हो रहा था, दूसरा अपना डब्बा खोल रहा है. तो गाइज कभी कभी वो ऐसा ऑकवर्ड बिहेव करते हैं जस्ट टू मेक यू फील अनकंफर्टेबल, राइट? बट उसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप कुछ खराब परफॉर्म कर रहे हो ऐसा. क्वेश्चनिंग एंड कंटिन्यूस क्रॉस क्वेश्चनिंग इज अनदर वे ऑफ पुटिंग यू अंडर स्ट्रेस, राइट? आपने एक आंसर कंप्लीट ही नहीं किया और दूसरा सवाल आ रहा है, तो उस केस में मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि आप उनको बहुत ही पोलाइटली विद स्माइल आप उनको कह सकते हो, सर लेट मी फिनिश दिस आंसर एंड देन आई विल कम बैक टू योर क्वेश्चन. एंड फिर आप वो जो आंसर दे रहे थे पहले इंटरव्यूअर का, उसको थोड़ा जल्दी कंप्लीट कर सकते हो, राइट? और मतलब रादर देन एलिबरेटिंग टू मच, राइट? तो आप इस तरीके से ये सिचुएशन को टैकल कर सकते हो. अच्छा, एक चीज़ मैं और बताऊंगा, डू नॉट गो एट अननेसेसरी लेंथ वाइल आंसरिंग सर्टेन क्वेश्चन. यू रियली नीड टू बी कंसाइज. काफ़ी लोग क्या करते हैं, एक छोटा सा सवाल पूछा है या तो उसको गोल गोल घुमाते क्योंकि उनके पास नॉलेज नहीं है, ये तो बिल्कुल मत करना। और अगर नॉलेज है तो बहुत ज़्यादा शोकेस करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, जो सवाल पूछा है उसका क्रिस्प आंसर आपको करना है। मतलब इफ़ आई वांट टू गिव यू अ यार्डस्टिक, से 3 to 4 line आंसर इज़ फेयरली सफिशिएंट, एंड देन लेट देम आस्क, अच्छा कैन यू एलिबरेट ऑन दिस, ठीक है, बट मेक श्योर दैट यू हैव आंसर्ड देयर क्वेश्चन इन दोज 3 to 4 lines. Yes, ma'am.
Adding to what he said, yes, keep your points crisp, but then definitely highlight something with an example. But please, again, as he said, do not go on and on. Do not ramble about it. Okay? Try coming up with some examples. Fine. Especially like, if I ask you, are you a good leader or a follower or something? Or let's say, are you good at meeting deadlines? Do not go about it in a roundabout fashion. Just come up with a straight example. Sir, let me answer your question with the help of something that happened 2 years ago. Okay, and then just quickly sum it up. One point over here, if they ask you about any problem, how you solved a problem, or what would you do in such a situation, or what did you do in such a situation, I suggest always follow the STAR method, STAR. It always and always works. You can never go wrong with that. Why? Because it gives clarity of thought. So if you ask me, okay, what would you do in such a situation? I'll say, sir, the situation is this, this, this. S. वो हो गया. S नहीं बोलना है. So the situation is this, this, this. The task that I was given, yeah, the task that I will be given, yeah, what I will be required to do is this, this, this. Okay? The action that I would take in this, or what I would do is this, 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 and then the result would be, as a result, it would be this. So STAR is always something that gives the listener your clarity of thoughts. Go with that. Anything that you would like to sum up?
In conclusion, because all the points have been covered, is what we actually even say for CAT, please do not underestimate the PI round. Don't think that you'll just go there and kill it. So practice, practice, and practice. Give mock interviews. Okay? And take the feedback. Try and incorporate as much as you can. You will not get perfect just like that. But with gradual, kind of interviews and answers, you have to hone in the right answers. You have to fine tune it, which will take time. It's a process. But do it, get through it. See, because ultimately it's a very important round. You've done whatever that you could till now, but now everyone is equal. You're at the doorstep. Okay? So now the interview will take you to the next big step. So please do not underestimate and practice and go prepared. And of course, all of these things in mind, and then just be your best self. Not yourself, but be your best self that day. And that's about it.
So you were talking about hobbies. Like what? Sir, does journaling and watching movies count as a hobby? Because I tend to do that regularly.
Watching movies, it's considered as a hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you like
I mean,
to watch
because
movies.
if reading is considered, sir, this is also consumption of
Absolutely.
content in a way.
Yes. So then they'll ask you as a follow-up question, they'll ask you what kind of movies, what
Yes.
genre. And then they might also ask you, say your learnings from that.
Yes.
And you should be ready with that. So, yeah.
I'll just add a point
Yes.
to what he's saying. Movies,
Yes.
movie as a hobby. Yes, I love watching movies. It helps me de-stress. Okay, that's my me time. But I always make sure that I don't watch any kachra that comes my way. I always try to watch something from which there is some takeaway.
Okay.
Okay, then they'll ask you, okay, which is the latest movie that you watched and what is your learning from that? Be ready with some answers for that.
Just one thought that is coming to my mind. Isn't watching movies an easiest thing to do? Just an easiest thing to do?
Sir, in my opinion, if I can say, sir, it depends on your temperament. For somebody, reading a book is the easiest thing to do because they can just glance over words.
Yeah, correct. But what I feel is it's very natural, right? So along with movies, I mean, it should not be only hobbies, but if you can showcase one or two other hobbies, that would be really helpful. That's what I feel,
Yes.
right? Because sometimes interview may perceive this way. Yeah, this is the easiest thing to do. I mean, everyone would like to do it, isn't that? So just think about that. Yeah.
But he can also, I mean, it's like, how strongly you show it. I mean, I'm telling you, let's say Chernobyl. So it's a movie. I have watched that. First, I had read the book, but then I watched it. You can say Oppenheimer. So when we say movies, it's not only the jing bang jing jing wala thing, That is what I'm saying. Ki if you come across with that, because I can relate with you, I'm a fanatic for watching Netflix and Amazon, but I make sure that I watch something that contributes to my learning and contributes to my communication skills. So that is how you have to portray your hobby.
Just remember, whatever you write on your resume, don't overthink it. So whatever you write, prepare to go deep. बहुत silly example and basic example, I'm a football fan. football fan में you can expect a question that had come in Calcutta where they said that football the का game continues when it starts to rain. It doesn't stop. At what point when it continues raining the football game stops? Tell us that. Then you can't be like, please ask me about Messi or Ronaldo or something. Then you better know because up till the point that the ball can freely go up to a certain meters and it stops because then friction is playing a role. That is the time when the game is suspended. So very basic thing because unlike cricket, football doesn't stop when it starts to rain. It continues for that matter. But these kind of nitty-gritties, technicalities. So movies, they'll ask you about the greats, they'll ask you about the classics. Then you can't say like, I'm not into that kind of cinema. You could, but see now your interview has now just got kind of shaken up. So anticipate.
Okay, sir.
And that's always good. That's better.
And sir, does journaling count as well? Because I
Yes.
tend to
So, but then,
journal a
what do
lot.
you journal? Anticipate what kind of questions. Have you published something? Do you blog? And then, is Twitter killing blogging? See, I can already think of so many questions because micro blogging, yeah, tweeting. So, and what would you do to revive it? Is it a lost skill? And then you better have your POVs, which is rational, not just subjective. Because you're thinking like an IIM grad at the end of the day. Never ever forget that. Not like a layman. So please have that kind of insights is what we are jointly telling you.
Understood.
Mike.
Thank you so much for the session. So I have a question which is kind of opposite of what you said. So basically, my hobby is very niche hobby. I do scribbling. Scribbling is basically just you use a pen and just scribble it, and it comes out. Some figure pops up, right? So the problem with my hobby is it is very rare. There is nobody do scribbling basically. So the information is not that widespread regarding scribbling. Plus there is a stigma that the people who scribble are sort of mental patient.
In fact, that's actually very interesting since I like the fact that you've thought, see, this is it. You've created a narrative around it. And we would love
Can
you.
I tell you a point that you don't know? He is learning, he's studying psychology. So you get my point. I mean, where I'm coming from. I'm trying to say you can connect it. See, as a psychologist, I believe in venting out my feelings, my emotions. This is what I would tell the people who consult with me. So then you can give it an angle, your scribbling thing, and then you elevate it. That okay, this kind of helps a person take out everything. Many people are introverted. Okay, so those people cannot go around talking to others. So scribbling is a way by which they just vent out all their feelings and emotions, and then they get back to work. They feel calm.
So
Give it an angle.
going back to what Ronak sir had also said about tell me something about yourself. Your narrative, guys. What's your life story? Who are you? So here it's a holistic perspective. What we are getting into you, which is a culmination of everything that has led you to become what you are, where you are sitting right now. So the fact that your background was there, the fact that you're from that background, which you kind of do this, and as a result of which you're doing that, yes, it's considered a stigma because this is also what is behind it. Very interesting. It already makes you set apart. Because
All of us are finding it interesting.
it's not a cookie cutter kind of a thing. Imagine that. It can work in your favor, by the way. So it's actually very, very nice.
Yeah, just to make you understand better, what is a hobby? Something that makes you relax, something that makes you feel good, and at the same time it adds value directly or indirectly. Now value in the sense, even if you feel happy, it's a value addition, right? So whatever you do, guys, for example, for him, watching movies make him relax, and I mean, he feels good, so it's a hobby. Are you getting this point? So don't worry about that, what you are doing. For example, someone is cooking. Why do we consider cooking as a hobby?
It helps them
I mean,
de-stress.
yes, it's a great de-stressor. If you enjoy that, you get completely engrossed in that. You forget all your worries and all, right?
And then I'll just add this point. In case, I'm telling you, things start going south and the interviewer asks you, what will you do with this scribbling? How will this help you in the long run? You can just say very politely, sir, I don't intend to make it my ikigai. Ikigai is something from which you earn. The world needs it. No, it's just my hobby. It's to help me as a person. It's to help me de-stress or whatever. So there you again sound a little intelligent. Thoda sa acha isko ikigai bhi malum hai. I'm just giving you a thing.
Remember the thing is कि in such situation what I'm supposed to prepare basically. If let's say somebody is watching movies, so he can prepare by watching different movies about knowing about them.
How
in
does
my
it
case,
help you? How does scribbling help you? Connect it with your background, your psychology, or whatever.
You will have to work on that. For
Yes.
example, I have very little knowledge about that, but I'm sure you are not alone who is doing that. There must be a niche segment. Okay, so उसका कुछ competition होता है, उसका कुछ event होता है, कुछ तो होता होगा. You can Google about that. If there is something, you can accumulate that knowledge.
Oh wait.
No, and then why can't you just see the big picture that maybe, at a later stage, I intend to be a psychologist or something, maybe at that. So like, this is one of the things I would suggest to my patients. Why can't you connect it with that?
You can also mention that this hobby is probably at a very nascent stage.
Yeah.
And I would like to do something in this field going forward, right?
Oh wait.
Give it a
Oh wait.
thought and please try to come out of it the way you said, it is a stigma. All three of us are mesmerized by your hobby. It's so good.
Yes, so Amit sir mentioned one very good point that most of the time you yourself can gauge what kind of question can be asked. You really need to give thoughts. He mentioned like what kind of questions, cross question can come across. And trust me, most of the time questions will be like that. Are you getting this point? So yeah, you can do that exercise. Yeah. One last question and then we'll end.
So just one last thing, sir. It could be perceived as to be a weakness of mine, sir, but I have kind of a jovial nature. My humor tends to come out, sir. Would that be looked down upon during an interview while I'm giving it? Because it's one of those things.
No, matlab it's always good, but it should come out very naturally. ठीक है?
Yes. No, not forced, but it's
हाँ,
just my
मतलब
way of
when you
being, I
when
guess.
you make certain points, certain statements, they should feel, I mean, there should be a smile on the face. It should not go unnoticed, so that you can judge, right?
Adding to that, if they ask you, okay, I mean, what is your weakness? And if you say this, I don't think you should say this as a weakness. This is a strength. And then when you speak about it, speak passionately about it, in the way that, okay, these days people pay a lot of money for laughter therapy, laughter yoga, right? And I'm blessed with that nature. So I think it really works if you have got a jovial nature. Think about it.
That's about it. Any more questions, guys? Are we done? Okay, thank you so much. All the best. Thank you.